Welcome. This is my channel and I tell stories of the mysterious, twisted, and paranormal. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. And if you are new to the channel, then welcome. And please consider subscribing and turning on your post notifications. But also get ready, because as of now, we're about to go on a journey, and as we do, we're about to slip into a mind that's not our own. So let's go. Now, to preface this, let me know in the comments, because I am not a father, but what it would feel like if your only child went missing. So let me know in the comments right now, because you wouldn't know if they were a victim of a serial killer, or if your daughter or son developed amnesia, or didn't know who they really were, or just got lost. So please, let me know in the comments. Thanks. Now, I say all this because Hazel Carpenter knew that horrible feeling when her only daughter, Virginia Carpenter, mysteriously disappeared. Now, at the time, Virginia Carpenter was 21 years old, and she had brown hair, brown eyes, and due to an appendectomy, she bore a scar on her stomach, and she also had a limp due to a previous bone-hip infection. And at the time of her disappearance, she was suffering from a severe case of sunburn as well. And she was last seen wearing a white dress with red, green, and brown stripes. Now, from Texarkana, Texas, Virginia boarded a train on June 1st, 1948 to return to her school dormitory in Denton, Texas. And the ride lasted for about 6 hours, so she had enough time to talk to a working teacher named Marjorie Webster. And Marjorie was also from Texarkana, so the two had an instant connection. And when the train was at their destination and the two of them got off the train, they decided to call a cab, and then the cab took them to their respective destinations. And Marjorie was dropped off at the Fitzgerald dormitories, and Virginia's destination was straight to the Texas State College for Women dormitories. So they then hire the service of a cab driver named Edgar Ray Zachary, aka Jack, and when Marjorie reached the Fitzgerald dormitories, Virginia remembered about her trunk luggage, which she failed to retrieve. So because of this, she asked Jack how much it would cost to drive her back to the station, and her and Jack agreed on a price of 75 cents to do so. Now, even Marjorie said that she would accompany her back to the station, but Virginia refused, telling her new friend that she would be all right, everything's good, even if she would be alone. So Jack and Virginia returned to the station, only to find out that her trunk would not arrive until later. So the driver then suggested that he could get the luggage tomorrow and deliver it to her dormitories, and thinking that, that was more than a practical idea, Virginia agreed. So she gave him the claim receipt to the driver inside, and on the back she also wrote down her details, which were Virginia Carpenter, room 200, Breckenridge. And then in the end she gave Jack a $1 tip as an extra thank you. Now, when they arrived at the dorm, Jack claimed that there was a yellow or cream colored convertible out front, and the color was not clear because it was dark, and the moon wasn't shining bright that light, plus the street lights were off due to repairs in that area. And standing by the car were two men. One of them was shorter and the other one was a bit heavier. Now, interestingly enough, when Virginia saw the men, she looked surprised, but not in an alarmed tone, because the two men seemed to know her. In fact, as soon as she approached the car, the shorter of the two men lifted her out to the curb, and then she instructed Jack to leave her other luggage on the ground because, the boys would take care of it. So, after fulfilling these instructions, Jack left, leaving behind Virginia with the two unidentified men. Now, Virginia never checked into her dorm, and after this point was never seen again. Now, the next day, Jack took Virginia's trunk to the front lawn as he was instructed to do so. 2 days after that, it was still unclaimed. So it was taken to the office, and on day 3 of Virginia's disappearance, her boyfriend, Kenny Branham, called her mother Hazel because he could not get a hold of her. So Hazel, at this point the mother, became obviously frantic and called the school just to learn that Virginia never checked in. And she didn't even enroll for that summer term at all. So Hazel then called her daughter's friends and their other relatives, but they all have heard nothing. And on June 5th, just after midnight, Hazel filed a missing persons report. So that's when the police said that they would start investigating the case first thing in the morning. And that, Hazel should go and get a good night's sleep first, before all this. But at this point, Hazel became even more agitated. So she went to Denton herself to personally look for her daughter, like any good mother would do. Now, all avenues of searching were employed, including helicopters, motorboats, people that were on foot, like search parties and trackers and hunters from lakes to abandoned wells. Almost all corners were inspected. But resolving this mystery was still a very tough task. So we got Virginia's disappearance now. And at this point, days and days are going by without one solid clue. And according to her previous boyfriends, the girl was easily infatuated, so it was possible that she took off with a new love interest, but her family, especially her mother, refused to believe any such notion. I mean, Virginia was a loving daughter, and she had great plans. In fact, she enrolled in the school for a summer term so she could pursue a science degree as a laboratory technician. And her boyfriend Kenny was investigated and was even subjected to a lie detector test, but he passed, and nothing more could link him, at least, to the case. Now, the driver Jack also became a hot subject of scrutiny, and according to reports, he had records of abusiveness, but aside from that, no one and nothing could connect him with Virginia's case alone. And his wife also stated that he was already home by 10 p.m., just less than an hour after he dropped Virginia off to her dormitory. Now, the time frame was so short that it would be very, very hard for him to commit the perfect crime in that amount of time. Plus, Jack also took a polygraph or lie detector test, and on both times he passed with flying colors. But the weird thing was, in 1958, Jack's wife changed her statement, and she said that Jack actually was really not home until about 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning on June 2nd. Now, despite this, Jack was never charged with anything due to a lack of evidence, and he became a suspect forever up to the day of his death in 1987. Now, others said that her disappearance could be because of the Texarkana killings, okay? So 2 years before Virginia disappeared, 5 people were murdered, and it was suspected that the same person did this. Plus, the killer was never identified. Thus, he became known as the Phantom Killer. Now get this. Out of the 5 people murdered by the Phantom Killer, Virginia personally knew 3 of them. Now, could this mean that Virginia really did know 3 of them? Or could this possibly mean that Virginia was actually the Phantom Killer herself? Now, of course, that is a far stretch, and the odds are she was a victim, but I like to keep an open mind. Now, as we weave and dive through the course of the case, many sightings were reported, but none gave any solid clues. I mean, there was even one gas station attendant reporting seeing Virginia together with two boys and another girl, and she said that they were in a yellow convertible with an Arkansas license plate. After that, there was Mrs. James, who was a ticket agent in a bus station in DeQueen, Arkansas, and she reported seeing Virginia, and she said that she saw a woman who resembled Virginia together with a man who was about 25 to 26 years old. And she said that the woman, Virginia, appeared to be very nervous and that she asked for available hotels in that area. And when the police showed her two pictures, she actually did point at Virginia's photo. However, after some time, she said that she was no longer 100% sure if it was really Virginia Carpenter. Then there was another reported by this woman named Gladys, who mentioned in a letter that they had seen a well-educated girl hitchhiking, and the girl resembled Virginia Carpenter. And Gladys said that the hitchhiker actually said her name was Virginia and that she ran away. But however, these claims have never been substantiated or verified. Now lastly, you have Hazel, the mother, on the other hand, who was a beloved mother of Virginia and believed that her daughter was a victim of amnesia, perhaps. Perhaps she was alive somewhere and she just didn't know how or where to return to. And more than 6 decades later, the hope of ever finding out the truth behind her disappearance is starting to slim down to none. So, I mean, Virginia didn't even tell her mother that she was actually not going to boarding school that summer. So did Virginia run away? Did she? And did she do it for, a possible boyfriend? A new boyfriend maybe? A love interest? And, was she really seen with those two guys and another girl? Or did the phantom killer somehow get a hold of her? Maybe it was one of the guys she was with that she didn't even know was the phantom killer. And sadly, that's how she perished. Was it that? Or is there a slim possibility, since she knew 3 out of the 5 victims that the phantom killer killed, that she herself was the phantom killer? Now, I do not want to put any blame on her, especially if she's the victim. Like I said, I just like to keep an open mind. But I would love to know, since there's a lot of holes and a lot of theories that can be placed around this, I would love to know your opinion in the comments. I'll read every one, and I'll tell you what I personally think of them.